will be able, at the end of this is what I hope, you'll be able to recite for me the contents of every one of these decks from memory. So from memory, know every single card in every one of these decks.
Wow.
Including alternate cards that could be in the main deck. So that's goal 1, is for you to memorize every deck in the meta.
So colloquially, objective 1 is meta mastery.
Well, like understanding every single card that's in there is number 1. That's the goal. That's like the baby block. Mm-hmm. And then you're going to play every single one of these decks. You're going to master each one of these decks to where you feel that you have a deep understanding of the gameplay that goes into each one of these, the thought process that are going the best way. So you're going to not only figure out what's in them, you're going to figure out what makes them tick, and then you're going to figure out the way they play against other decks in the meta. So you should be able to switch seats with your opponent and play their deck better than them. All right. Whew. So you're headed to an RC, Navigator. You're going to your RC.
I qualify for an RC. I've said it in like 3 videos straight. Yeah. I just want to emphasize that.
This is happening. This is happening. This is happening. So we're switching gears. So you were trying to get me to an RC, which you failed. Not your fault, but it was your fault. No, it was. So you tried to get me there. I did well. I did like, where's my I got him somewhere. I didn't get there. So now we're shifting gears, and the gear we're shifting to is an October RC in Washington, DC, right? Washington DC RC.
And what's today's date?
Today is July 29th, 2024. So we have October 2nd. Is that when you got to be there?
October 4th is the beginning of the event.
October 4th. Okay, October 4th. So what we're doing between now and then, Navigator has challenged me to train him to a high level. So I've racked my brain about how to accomplish this, like how to turn this flabby, sad sack into a jacked Magic the Gathering just monster. I'm going to make him do mental push-ups. I'm going to make him do, squat thrusts until he can't feel his own buns. I'm going to make him like shuffle decks until his hands bleed, So I put together a training plan, and this is the beginning of a training plan. So what I envision a pro player being able to do, and what it's going to do is challenge you to higher levels of mental rigor. At first, it's going to be annoyingly hard. Mm-hmm. You're a great Magic player. Great Magic player. You're great when you're backed into a corner. You think way out ahead of where you need to be. You're ready for this. I think you are ready for this. All I'm going to do is add I'm going to work out a muscle group that I hope will help reinforce what you already have. I'm not trying to create something in you. I'm trying to just reinforce what's already in your mind. So this may be an easy training plan for you, but I'm going to test it.
What was your approach, kind of the genesis? So I sent you a text message. I was like, "Hey, will you be my coach for the RC?" No. And I meant that I meant that as in, "Hey, let's play some Magic." And then lo and behold, the reason why we're recording this right now is like I found like you were reading books. You had like you are no shit developing a training plan on what you at least from a coach's purview, right? Like because not every coach was a champion, but coaches train champions, right? Yeah. So I think it's actually a very pragmatic thing. Or pragmatic approach. What was your inspiration, and how did you kind of like on a 30,000 foot view before we talk about what's actually the substance of what your plan is?
So I thought about it had to be tailored to you specifically. I couldn't just come up with a training plan that would work for me. So I thought about you a lot. lying in bed, I was just thinking about Navigator. What can I do to make him
Your
better?
your wife was looking at you, was like, "You're thinking about him, aren't you?" I've caused some
No,
damage
no,
in your relationship.
no. I was totally thinking about you, honey. But yeah. So I thought about your strengths and your weaknesses, and I thought, well, what can I do to enhance your strengths and minimize your weaknesses that
Mm,
would angle you towards a professional level of play? And you're
mm,
already like headed in that direction because of your study of theory, your study of how you approach the game. I'm not going to try to repeat the stuff you've already done, because I know in your preparation for you specifically,
mhm,
you do that on your own because it's something you love. So
mhm,
what I'm going to do is try to eliminate your blind spots, all your blind spots. And the only way I can seek to do that is by drilling and testing your deck knowledge
mm,
constantly. So I already told you, like, you had to do the dirty, and the dirty was to download MTGO.
yes.
Yes, you have
But
a
I said,
so
"Yes, coach."
you got to do it, and I'm going to provide you with every meta deck that you could possibly play, every one of them. It'll probably be about, I'm guessing, around eight decks, 8 solid decks, and if a new one comes up, that one will arrive magically in MTGO for you to play.
Damn.
Uh, so you will be able, at the end of this is what I hope, you will be able to recite for me the contents of every one of these decks from memory. So from memory, know every single card in every one of these decks,
Wow.
including alternate cards that could be in the main deck. So that's goal one, is for you to
So
memorize every deck in the meta.
colloquially, objective one is meta mastery.
Yeah. Well,
Like,
understanding every single card that's in there is number one. That's the goal. That's like the baby block. And
mhm,
then you're going to play every single one of these decks.
mm,
You're going to master each one of these decks to where you feel that you have a deep understanding of the gameplay that goes into each one of these, the thought process that are going the best way. So you're going to not only figure out what's in them, you're going to figure out what makes them tick, and then
mhm,
you're going to figure out the way they play against other decks in the meta.
mm.
So you should be able to switch seats with your opponent and play their deck better than them.
How do you
So
measure
you'll
that?
know. It's funny you should ask. So I'm actually going to test you on decks, meaning
Okay.
when we're physically in the same place, I'm going to
Mhm,
give you a blank piece of paper, and I will say, write down every card in the following deck. Go, and you're
mm,
going to write down the whole deck, and then the test that you're going to have will be on MTGO for playing the other decks. The
mhm,
beautiful thing about MTGO that Arena does not have is well, first, Pioneer's on there.
mhm. Actual pioneer, not fake pioneer.
Actual, yeah, not fake Pioneer. But it records every single game you play.
Okay.
So after you play a game, I will go back in and watch the games you play and review them and judge you harshly on how you play.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so I'll be able to coach you after the fact. After you play the game, I can see your mistakes. And when I find something, it'll be like a test. I'm going to circle it, send it to you, and say, what were you thinking at this point? And
That's cool.
yeah, so I'm going to scrutinize every point of play for every one of these decks. So that's the beginning. Mastery, memorization of every single deck, and then mastery of every deck. So now you know the game plan for every single deck that you could possibly be sitting across from.
Mm.
For the majority, I know you're going to have the elf player that comes in there. you know, you're not. I mean, I'm not going to make you play elves.
Pioneer Merfolk.
Yeah, but you're going to know how Gruul aggro goes up against control,
Mm.
and you're going to know the best pattern of play as a Gruul aggro player to play against control, even if you're not playing those two. But you'll
Mhm,
understand more about the deck than your opponent will.
mhm,
So after that's accomplished, and that's going to be rigor. So you'll
mhm,
be assigned not only just open play, tournament practice play, which we'll go over that, but I'm going to be assigning you leagues
Oh,
to
shit.
play. So you're going to take these decks into each one of these decks. You should at least play a league or two to get
Mm,
actual scores on how well you play. So it
mhm,
won't be just pretend fun. You're going to be going and playing for actual prizes.
mm.
I'm going to put you to work.
Okay.
um,
Alright.
So we're going to collect all this data, we're going to scrutinize it, and what's cool is you and I have developed a conversational, emotionalist kind of approach to digging into our own mistakes and embracing those and saying, okay, I understand this. And it is like the stuff that we went over. When I top aided the last RCQ, the stuff that we talked about was so relevant. It was so relevant. It came out in my gameplay, and I had thoughts of moments that we discussed together of like, okay, this
Like
is
what?
that situation. Was it?
Like what?
But yeah, like the well, we'll don't get me off track and talk about my RCQ. We're talking about your RC. So yeah, we're gonna memorize decks. I'll be testing you on memorization. We're gonna play every deck. You're gonna master every deck. This also, say if something occurs at the last minute, meaning a new deck rises in the meta, then you'll be able to shift to a better choice and not have to backtrack and learn things at the last minute. Okay?
Okay.
You'll be fluent in all of these decks already, so you won't really have a learning curve to overcome.
So we're looking to get both a mile wide and a mile deep.
Yeah, and we're gonna drill deep first, and then start going wide. So on the knowing what's in the decks, because I think your natural instincts and your natural understanding of gameplay will help interpret that memorization.
Right.
Yeah. So once that's done, we're gonna do something called foil card study.
I like
and
foils.
It's not foils. We're going to find cards that foil deck strategies. So we're going to basically,
like for example, like the idea, for example, like we say we're discussing mono black waste knot, and then in every color set, like, hey, these are the tools available that specifically target that archetype strategy.
Yeah. Like Leyline of Sanctity is a foil card to waste knot. It's like you just can't do anything with it anymore. It's just like so we're going to basically what we're going to assemble is the greatest sideboard ever. Is what I'm calling it. So it is we're gonna discuss foil strategies against every one of these decks. So the familiarization comes first, and then the how to take down, like this discussion we had about going up mono green against Amalia. That was the big threat, and we and also spirits. And in our discussion, we came up with foil strategies to both, and I put those directly into my sideboard, and it helped out in a couple. I didn't go up against spirits or Amalia in that game, but I was prepared for it because my main deck was good enough for all of the other games, pretty much the ones that I won anyway. So we're gonna do foil card study. That's the third step. Build a impenetrable fortress sideboard that we will pull from. Yeah. And we will test these over and over again. We'll test them. You're going to install them. We'll assess the meta, put you in a league. You'll play it. Maybe we'll do a Wednesday Night Magic. We'll bring these new cards in. We'll test them. We'll play against each other. And we'll test these sideboard cards for originality, for expected. Sometimes putting an unexpected foil card in the sideboard, something they don't see coming, it makes them stumble and they're unable to adapt to it. So with after that, so this is step 4. So this is under the understanding that if you play a deck that has a combo or a series of actions that stack upon each other, you know what I mean? Like, say you're playing Quintorius, or you're playing Amalia, or you're playing Lotus Field, or you're playing Mono Green, or you're playing anything that has these, or a new prowess type control deck, or something like that. Anything that requires complicated stack discussions. We're going to do vocalization exercises where you will vocalize as I am your opponent, because you're not walking up into your F&M anymore. There's a judge over your shoulder. There's no room for mistakes with the way a combo goes off. So you're going to vocalize to me situations that I build for you.
Interesting.
So you will vocalize them. You'll say them out loud, and you'll come up with a cadence and a rhythm of delivery.
So this is scenario-based training kind of built off of the previous mastery and all, like rote memorization. You're
Yes.
like, quick, your turn 5 Quintorius, or you're playing Quintorius combo, it's turn 5. You have a Quintorius canned in your hand. Now take
Hmm.
me to, your winning line. How do you go?
Yes.
Your
Yes.
opponent's tapped
Exactly.
out or whatever.
And you're going to vocalize it. You're going to explain it. And this is after you've mastered the deck. So you already understand how to do it. All we're doing is translating the action, which is, it could be fairly easy to do this action. But as you noted, like it's hard to say the Amalia combo
Hmm.
correctly
Hmm.
unless you've done it a bunch. It's
Yeah.
hard.
Well, what's
So,
funny, you want to go back to how we've tested to come to this point so far, because we've documented our whole journey. I haven't mentioned how the immediately before the RCQ that we won, or that I won, like we were testing, I was playing Amalia and you were taking me through the gauntlet. You made me sit there and explain to you my Amalia combo every single time. And you know what?
yeah.
And it paid out. It paid out because like I can do it cold. I was like, no,
Yeah.
this interaction's going on right now. Like this is how the stack works in this situation. Blah blah blah. Okay.
Yeah. So you're going to, and with that, I mean, after we've done
Mhm.
all this, we are going. What I'm hoping is that through the gameplay, through the review of the game, through the foil study, through all of this, we will have collected information that we need to have clear interpretation from the rules.
Mm.
So after all the gameplay mastery, vocalization, decks, we're going to scrutinize the rules as they apply to the decks that we are playing, meaning
Oh wow.
specialized rules that may or may not or may apply to what we're doing. And that comes with playing the decks over and over again, where if in the middle of gameplay, if something happens and you say to yourself, I didn't know that worked like that, or I didn't
Mm.
know that was how that worked when your opponent
Mhm.
plays something, and you'll jot that down, and that'll become a point that we make sure to review at the end.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, walking it backwards a little bit, we're recording this because we've recorded everything thus far, and I think the whole ACV MTG thing is going from Timmy to Spike, but still playing to that little Timmy part of you. Like, there's the part of Magic that we love, and
Mm-hmm.
we want to keep loving it, but we're finding enjoyment through expression in the competitive environment. So I'm asking these questions because essentially, by documenting this process, I want it to be repeatable for other people, right? Maybe someone isn't going to go out and pay for a coach or have an awesome friend like you that can be a coach, right? And has enough depth or the creative, because like I've said it before, I think you're like the Michael Flores of our time. Like you have the grand strategic mind, and I think whatever plan you put together for me is one that I'll follow and one that will work if followed correctly. So when we're talking about deck mastery, we're talking about collecting data, collecting information. Now, you've done this by creating an MTGO account to share with me, because I was staunchly opposed to MTGO, and you texted me, he's like, what if I set it up so all you have to do is press play. Would you do it? Because you need to practice on there. I said yes. um,
He like hung his head and then walked slowly towards it. Like, okay.
um, is there, when we're talking about, the offline homework that I'm going to have to do, are there milestone numbers that I have to hit? Like, hey, here are, say, throwing a number out there, say these are 8 decks. Okay, with each of these 8 decks, you need to log 100 games, right? And two, of which 2, series of games have to be from leagues, right? So 2
Mm-hmm.
leagues, 100 games total. Or is there, have you given thought to the volume of data that you would need to collect to be able to synthesize both the deck performance in and of itself, while simultaneously quantifying for my experience as a pilot with the particular deck?
Well, taking into account who you are
Right.
and how you're approaching the RC, I don't
Hmm.
think I think I can, as a coach, I can trust you to do your part on the gameplay side, meaning like maybe assign you a week with one deck, because it's about 8 weeks until you go.
Yeah.
So a week with a deck, and say, okay, at least one league, and play as much tournament practice as you can. And through that, I can go in and review how you're playing. But I feel like once I get you up to speed on MTGO, it'll be a little easier for you to just jump into a game and not be intimidated by its 1985 technology.
So it's really, so your structure, again, making it a repeatable process for other people, is like, all right, so you have a timeline. That's a constraint. You're essentially looking at, 8 weeks till midnight, right? And so I'm going to consolidate your focus on the gameplay on a weekly basis, while working on all of the metagaming and the theory and the strategy concurrent as you progress through the gameplay. So it's like, I may not get to it. Yeah.
Yeah, as you're playing, you'll report to me and say, "Hey, last night I played 10 games." And I'll go in, review your games, make notes, and then hopefully I can get in there and get in before your next set of games, and we can review it. I don't want it to snowball. I want to begin the week and end the week with the same deck, and then shift to the next deck with some notes to move forward, and then review it all at the very end.
Okay.
Yeah, but then as each of these things occur, you have to be aware about the specialized rules the entire time. Because if something strikes you, then it's okay. Well, let me pull the rules on that. We'll review it together. We'll get you to where you understand it, where you can recite the rule in case there's a misunderstanding during the game.
Okay. All right. So I guess repeating that. So week 1, assigned a deck. As I play games, report back, hey, I played X games with the deck. And that creates an immediate feedback loop for a daily progression with the individual deck that will accumulate by the end of the week. In the meantime, I'm also paying attention to rules interactions that maybe I'm not so familiar with, combo lines that I may need to iron out, as well as like alternate win conditions, or maybe things my opponents play that I'm not so familiar with. Take those notes down, and that becomes a part of aggregate knowledge as we continue to move on.
Yeah, and like I said, I feel like I can trust you as the person being coached to do your part, because if I was trying to train you and you didn't have the brain that you have and your insight, then I couldn't trust you with it. I'd have to run behind you, jot down everything. But I feel like you're going to be so engaged with this process that you'll be collecting this for yourself, because it's you want every weapon you can carry into that game.
Right. It was funny. I was talking to my therapist about sports performance, like high performers under pressure, and she asked me how I handled losing. Right, and I said, well, it depends. Right, if you walk into a room on a tournament day or game day or whatever, whether it was college sports or now I guess it's Magic the Gathering is scratching that competitive itch for me. When you show up on game day, all game day is a performance. It's you iterating on the lowest level of training that you've done. Like, when I was playing rugby, it was, I had an off season, and that's where the work was getting done, was in the off season, right? Once I'm in season, I'm at a peak of physical conditioning, and it's just play the game, right? That's it. That's what I'm there to do. And I said, when she asked me how I handle losses, I was like, well, it depends. Like, if I show up to game day and, I have that little seed of doubt in the back of my mind, it's like, oh, you remember that time when you were supposed to be training and instead you fucked off and instead you just messed off and watch TV for 8 hours instead of going to the gym, or in this case logging into MTGO. If there's that inkling of doubt that you could have done better, then you're worried not that you were bested by an opponent, rather you let yourself down because you didn't perform to the maximum potential which you are able. So it sounds like your strategy is kind of gearing towards hey, you are going to weaponize yourself to the best of your ability, and then whatever happens, happens. Not being tied to the result, just be tied to performing the best to which you are able.
Yeah. Yeah, and all I'm trying to do is sharpen the things that you already have. Like all of this stuff, I feel like you would have tried to do by sitting down at an F&M or Wednesday Night Magic and tried to get all of this stuff done without enough exposure. So I'm going to give you access to something that gives you enough exposure, and then I'm going to mandate that you do it. And then I'm going to review the progress you make, and we're going to discuss it together. I think it's not outside your wheelhouse in any way. I feel like you would have tried to do this. I'm just trying to assist you in doing something that you were already going to try to do. I'm going to try to make that better and enhance it.
And I think that's an amazing point that you're making, because again, with the goal of this being recorded so that it's repeatable, what you are providing, why this dynamic is going to work the way that it works, is you are providing a structure, and then you are providing accountability, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Because
maybe
I know when we get to the bad deck that you don't like, I know when we get to that deck that you don't like playing, and I'm like, you need to play your games. You need to do it tonight. And you're like, I don't want to. I want to play Quintorius again. That was fun. Like, I'm going to make you play.
Eat your vegetables.
Yeah, you got to eat your vegetables on all of these decks, and a couple of them I don't even like playing. But you have to understand how to play them, and you have to know every little detail about them. So when you sit across from it, you've already got them on lock. You already know when to stick your finger in the spokes.
Yeah, cool. So I guess to wrap it up, what's week 1, deck 1? We're recording on a Monday.
All right, your first deck. I'm gonna start you off a little easy. I'm gonna give
asparagus or snow peas?
Actually, you're gonna play mono green first week. Just get it out of the way.
That's like creamy spinach. That's good.
Yeah. You eat your spinach. You may even finish that in a couple days. Okay. Like, you may get through this one so fast so I want to get the ones down and then test you on it so you can move on to like the next one. The next one may be a little more awkward for you, I would say. So I'll do fun, awkward, fun, awkward, fun, awkward. So you're not like hating, I'm not going to hit you with 3 control decks in a row. It's like, I surrender.
No, I timed out of every game I ever played.
And I wore the
believe coach.
You must believe.
You are my Ted Lasso. Oh, hell yeah. All right, so week 1, deck 1, mono green. We're gonna hop over to MTGO, and I'm gonna do a quick MTGO fam with JJ, and I'm gonna eat my ice cream to cope with it. And yeah, so we'll do I think we should do like a weekly check-in on this, like just like 15-20 minutes or whatever we can spare to kind of do the weekend review, because I think it's going to be interesting 8 weeks from now, or 5-8 months from now, to be able to go back and look at this process and be like, you know what, this worked, this didn't, or this is where we start. Because right now we can definitively go all the way back to September of last year and be like, this is where we started, and this is where we are right now.
Yeah.
Cool. Remember, always choose violence.
Always choose violence.